With our liberties being threatened, we, the people, need to stand up and speak our truth. But what holds us back? Is it the fear of ruffling feathers, the fear of retribution? Today, we're going to hear from Brad Walsh, who works with women to help them share their stories of success, triumph, resiliency, and transformation, to empower them to amplify their voices all over the world. Join us to find out more.
Soul Nectar Show, the Soul Nectar Show. You're invited, delighted to discover who you are. Anything is possible if you believe. So join us on this beautiful journey. Soul Nectar Show. Soul Nectar Show. Soul Nectar Show.
Hello and welcome everybody to another episode of Soul Nectar Show, that show where we talk about all things essence, where we gather around the campfire and we share our stories of connection to that which is greater than us, the big mystery beyond the veil, to those synchronistic moments that lead us inexorably to a new conversation within ourselves, to a new reality, to a new understanding of what we're doing here on planet Earth, what all of these challenges that we're facing are really all about. And I'm your host, Kerri Hummingbird. I love these conversations week after week, and I like to come in here and shed some light on what is in darkness. And I love to have friends come on with me too. And today's conversation is it's on this topic of empowerment and standing in our truth and having conversation be the catalyst for change, and really leaning in to ensuring that our voices are heard and expressed, and not simply shrinking back and hiding or trying to avoid or escape what has now become unescapable. The conversation is here. It's in our faces. In the United States, the conversation looks a little bit like we the people. I think it looks that way other places as well. And it's really our opportunity to step into our sovereignty and to speak what is on our minds and our hearts, like our ancestors had to do before us, in order to establish all of these, these systems of justice that are now sort of being challenged. And so I have a beautiful guest on today, Brad Walsh. Welcome, Brad.
Thank you so much, Kerri. It is an absolute honor and pleasure to be here with you. I've been looking forward to this conversation, and I'm excited to jump in and dive in. So thank you for having me. I'm very, very happy to be here.
I'm glad you're here. And just so our audience knows a little bit about you, Brad is a professional photographer, and he found himself wanting to inspire others during the pandemic. And so he birthed the idea of empowerography as a platform to highlight strong, inspired, and dynamic women to share their stories of success, of triumph, resiliency, and transformation. He had no idea that what started as a simple concept would take on a life of its own, because it's so needed right now. And he's excited to share this platform with you and elevate, empower, and educate by amplifying the voices of women all over the world. And, the Dalai Lama has said that it's the Western woman that will lead the way. And it's because we've tasted freedom. We've tasted respect. We've tasted autonomy and sovereignty and independence. And now there's some forces that would like to reverse that situation for not just the women, but for everybody. And so, my heart is in this conversation of we the people, and that this is the time where we stand, and I had this conversation, Brad, with a friend, a new friend yesterday for, this is going to come out a little bit later, but St. Patrick's Day. And we were honoring our Irish ancestors, and the fact that the Irish people never gave up. The English wanted to conquer them and wanted to take over everything, and they just kept fighting. And they were like, no, we're not going to stop fighting. We will never stop fighting. We will keep fighting for our freedom, and you cannot conquer us. And eventually the English gave up and they said, fine. So there's this way that we're being invited, to stand, to speak, to call on the strength of our ancestors who've done this before us, and to say, no, we are the people, we the people. And, and women, a lot of women and men, I think, have been domesticated into being quiet and to being subservient or going along and not speaking up. So, what do you see in this conversation? And, you know, you work with a lot of women, you know, to
Hmm.
support women. What's the number one thing that women are just, what keeps them from standing and speaking their truth?
Fear, I think, and as you meant, I think the conditioning of being told from when they were young girls to just sit there and look pretty, don't speak, don't, don't make a fuss, don't be loud, all of these things. Women have been conditioned for so long to stay quiet and just sit there and look pretty and all of the things. And I mean, we are seeing a change, definitely. Women are tired of that and are realizing that and finding their voices. But I think fear plays a big piece of that because of the conditioning. They're scared to speak out because they're breaking that conditioning. But it is starting to shift for sure. I mean, I'm seeing that with all of the women that I work with, all the women I've interviewed. And there's still a lot of women that are scared to speak. They are scared to show up, to be visible. Um, but I want to help as many of these women as possible because we all have a voice and our voice is there for a reason. Use it. You have to use it. You have to stand up and speak your truth. You have to step into your authenticity. You have to step into your power. Your voice, your story needs to be heard in the world. Every single, and this is another common thing I hear from women is that I don't have a story. Who am I to tell a story? I don't have one. And that is so false. Every single person, man and woman, on this planet have a story. And I believe that it is your duty and your responsibility to open that mouth and share your story because when all's said and done, your story is going to help another person. It's going to give impact. It's going to bring impact to the world. And that, as far as I'm concerned, that's part of why we're all here, is to create impact in our own way. You know, you always hear people say, I'm one person, I can't make a difference. Hell yes, you can. Of course you can. You are a spoke in the wheel. And a wheel doesn't turn without all the spokes. So you are part of that and you need to stand up and speak and share. People need to hear your story. Period. It's so important.
Yeah. And it's like, there's a lot of gunk for women in
Hmm.
telling that story, right?
Yeah.
Because a lot of times, like when I started telling my story, it was really about, when I began telling my story, it was
Hmm.
about, oh, well, I didn't feel empowered, or my mom
Hmm.
had a really strong mom, actually. Not everybody has a really super strong mom, but
Yeah.
I did. And it was intimidating. It was like, ooh, you know, to my
Yeah.
sensitive self. I was like, ooh, I
Hmm.
don't know, this is a lot of power. And I always felt criticized, and, you know, I had a hard time accepting and loving myself and standing in my own power, right?
Hmm.
And I think that as I got older and I started telling my story, I also felt like, wow, I'm telling my story. I'm sort of also saying them something bad about my mom.
Mm.
And that feels uncomfortable
Hmm.
because to tell my story means to somehow cast a light on her.
Right.
And then when I became a mom, then as I was working with this energy of being a mom, then I was like, oh,
Hmm.
well, I can't tell that story because then that reflects on my kids. So there's like this web of connection that makes
Yeah.
it, because women are typically the hubs. You know, we're typically
Hmm.
not, I wouldn't say
Yes.
everybody, but we're typically a hub of people.
Hmm.
And so when we start to tell our story, we're impacting a lot of people with how we
Yep.
tell our story.
Yeah, and I think that's a very common thing. Can I say this because it will hurt this person? It will affect that person. And, you know, the women that I've encountered that bring that up, I just say then be selective about the pieces of the story that you tell. But that doesn't mean you can't tell any of your story. Select if that is something you're concerned about, then be selective in the pieces of the story you wish to share until you're comfortable enough. If you get to that point where you just don't care, and you know what, it's my story, and if it hurts or impacts someone in a negative light, I can't. Should I lie about it? It just depends on what you're comfortable with, and if you're okay with ruffling feathers and going against the grain and hurting people, and that hurt is not on you. That hurts on them. When you think about it, if they're getting hurt about it, that's not your fault. You're sharing the truth. You're sharing your story. It's something that they need to deal with. But again, it's about if you're okay with that, if you can handle ruffling those feathers. So, and if you
Ruffling
can't,
feathers is tough, right? I mean,
it is for sure.
yeah, because and we do need to ruffle some feathers, but sometimes when you ruffle feathers, if the person's super vengeful,
Hmm.
as we have somebody in charge of the United States right now, very vengeful person,
Mm-hmm.
and then you ruffle feathers by talking about that, right? There's like
Mm-hmm.
retribution. So
Yeah.
like the whole idea with, I think, our ancestors creating spaces where it was safe for people to, First Amendment, safe to express
Mm-hmm.
your
Mm-hmm.
perspective, right? To speak
Mm-hmm.
is
Mm-hmm.
important for society to function,
Yeah.
you know,
Absolutely.
and because if we can't express how we think and feel and what we're perceiving, then it's kind of like, where's that energy going to go? It's going to get bottled up, and then typically it's going to lead to a bigger fight later, right? Which is
Yeah.
going to be more destructive
Mm-hmm.
for the family unit or for the country, for the web
Mm-hmm.
of human
Yeah.
connection.
Yeah.
It gets to be destructive if not everyone can speak their perspective, if not everyone can be heard. Yeah.
We should absolutely. We should be able to speak our perspective, and I think that you know there are tons of different and difficult conversations that need to be had in the world. Um, I guess I don't know. Part of it is I think we have to be selective about who we discuss these things with, and that sounds to we should be able to discuss these things with anybody, but I think we have to learn as a human race, I think, to enter into conversation with an open mind, an open heart, and these things open. We're given
Ears.
two ears and one mouth for one reason, for a reason. Use these more than you use this. Listen to someone's perspective. And I think that if we shift the way we go into conversations where we are going in with an open mind, an open heart, and open ears, it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to give in on your point, but listen to another person's perspective because be curious, I think, is a key element of conversation too. Like, how did you arrive at the way you think? Like, how did you get here? I'd love to know what led you to this point to believe what you believe. And I'm not going in to change your mind. I'm going in to listen. I want to hear the way you think. And that's another thing, Pete. You can almost see with some people when you enter into a conversation with someone, you can almost see in their eyes that they're listening just to respond. Like they just want to get their point across. And that's not the way to approach conversation. You can wait and you can listen and hear what they have to say. Like I said, you could walk away from a conversation with someone with a completely different perspective on what you both were discussing that you went into the conversation with, and you could look at it and think about it a completely different way. And again, that's not to say you have to change your mind and believe what this person is telling you. You don't have to, but at least have an open mind, an open heart to listen to what the person's saying, whether you agree with them or not.
Yeah, exactly. Like when you listen, you might actually understand why they have the perspective,
Mm-hmm.
which can help you have a little, for me, it helps me have a little bit of acceptance for the person.
Mm-hmm.
Not
Yeah.
that I agree with them,
Yeah.
but that I can understand how they have that perspective
Mm-hmm.
because of whatever's happened to them in their lives,
Yep.
whatever experiences that they drew conclusions about, and then
Mm-hmm.
formed a narrative that became their identity. And then that's like what they're going with.
Yeah.
And, you know, and it's like our narratives form our life experience. And this is another piece that so many people don't understand yet on the planet is that whatever we believe about life tends to come true again and again
Mm-hmm.
and again and again
Mm-hmm.
until we decide to change what we believe, right?
Yeah.
And until we decide to change the story that we tell. And I learned that lesson painfully, Brad, over like 20 years
Mm-hmm.
of weekly psychotherapy sessions where I would go in and rant about the same thing basically happening in different ways for 20
Yeah.
years. And I was like, why isn't this changing? And it literally got worse. It kept getting worse and worse and worse and worse and worse. And I was like, this is
Mm-hmm.
not working. You know, what's going on? And part of it is I didn't want to give up my victim story. I didn't want to give up
Yeah.
the story of myself as the one being attacked and being, you know, belittled and all of these things. I didn't want to give that up. And so because I didn't want to give that up because I wanted the person to pay or whatever, I
Mm-hmm.
wasn't able to step into my true power until I decided, all right, you know, I'm suicidal.
Mm-hmm.
So if I'm going to end my life, why don't I just die to the story I've been telling instead?
Mm-hmm.
Why don't I die to who I think I am instead?
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Well,
And that has
was it
served me.
Einstein? Was it Einstein that said doing the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and over again and expecting a different result? You can't. You have to. We are the only ones that can change our story, our narrative. We can't change anyone else's mind. We can't change anyone else's narrative. You have to worry about you and what you're doing. You are the only one that can change it. No one else can change it for you, just like you can't change anyone else's. So focus on you. It starts at everything. I believe that absolutely everything in this world starts with a foundation of us. We got to start here first. And then that ripples out. And when we do better for ourselves, that also impacts the people we surround ourselves with. And you can become that permission slip for others to do better, to change, to shift, to whatever they need to do.
Yeah, because when you hear a story of somebody that has changed the narrative and in doing that has actually transformed the relationship, whoa. Like when I tell my story about doing that with my mom, my mom and I, like, she was a very strong woman, so I was intimidated. And all she ever wanted me to do was stand in my power. But she did it kind of like, stand up. What's the matter with you? Don't let him do that to you. Quit that, and she'd kind of like, and I was like, ooh, I have to.
Yeah.
I have to keep the peace. I have to pick my battles. I had all these reasons why I couldn't confront the relationship in the way that I needed to, right? And I didn't have all the tools I needed anyway, but I was trying, right? But actually it was when I finally said enough of this storyline. Like if I went to this movie, I would walk out of the theater. I don't want to sit here and watch this movie.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think people have to get to that place. Like, I don't like this movie. Like this storyline that
channel.
I'm inhabiting, it sucks.
Yeah.
And I want something different for myself because I know I'm capable of something different. And then when you get to transform that relationship, like now my mom and I are best buds. Like, it's like amazing.
So going back to your mom, I mean, that method that she was trying to impose on you was what worked for her. What works for her is not going to work for you or other people. It may not, but that's up to you to decide what works for you. And it's about that middle ground and understanding that, wait a minute, me preaching at my daughter, Kerri, this is what you need to do. This is what you need to do. This is how you need to deal with it. It's not going to work. It just can't. Because you're not her and she's not you. It worked for her.
It worked for her, and she had lots of lessons around that too that I witnessed. But now she's learned how to listen. We listen to each other. So because I chose to listen to her first, what's my mom? It's really hard for me to hear what she's saying.
Yeah.
But when she feels received, and then I change the narrative about her, right? Like she's only doing this because she loves me. Okay. Yeah. And it was through changing that story that lived within me from probably like really young, right? To change that story, she showed up differently because I wasn't harboring that icky story about her anymore. I wasn't like holding on to this, she's the evil witch, story anymore. I mean, people can feel when you're harboring a shitty story about them. They can feel that. And it doesn't feel good. And it tends to make them show up just like that or worse.
Yeah, for sure. When it all comes down to it, every one of us on the planet just wants to be seen and heard. So it comes back to the listening point and really listening to what someone's saying, not listening to respond, not listening to interject and give your opinion. Sometimes people just want to be heard. That's it. You don't even have to say anything. Sometimes it's just about sitting there and listening to someone so that they feel heard. That's all it takes sometimes.
And then if, sometimes what somebody's saying, if their perspective is radically different than yours, it is hard to receive that.
Sure.
Because it pokes at something you hold dear, pokes at maybe a really deep value that you have within yourself. And this person is the opposite. It's like, ouch, I can't believe people exist like you, right? And so you might have some instant judgment. But those are the things that we get to work within ourselves on, to kind of shift that uncomfortable experience, right?
Yeah. But I think that's also where the curiosity piece comes in. How did you arrive at? Why do you think this way? Like, where did this come from? Seriously, where did this opinion come from? How did you arrive at this? And then talk about that. It's just, if people are willing to go that far down into the rabbit hole for the conversation. And like I said, you can listen and you don't have to take everything to heart that someone's saying, and you can disagree with them. Fine. But I don't know. I think curiosity is a wonderful thing, and finding out about how people think the way they do, why they think the way they do. I think that's an important piece of the art of conversation. I really do.
And what I'm picking up from you, Brad, is a couple of things that make that facilitate that listening process. And one of the things I'm picking up on, and you can just tell me if this is true or not, is that you really know who you are. So like step one, you're really clear about who you are, right, as a person. And you're tapped into your own frequency, your own, your own self. And then the second thing is you're not taking it personally. Someone else, like as if it's an affront on you somehow.
Yeah. I mean,
Accurate?
that resonates, but that doesn't mean that I'm like that all the time. Sometimes we slip. Sometimes things do get to us. We're human beings. We're emotive. Of course, things are going to ruffle our feathers or piss us off or frustrate us. And it's, I know who I am. I know what I want to do in this life. I know that we are all here to be in and of service to one another. And that took me a long time to get to that point and to learn that that's a big part of what life is about. But I'm here. I feel like I've finally arrived, and I know what I want to do in this world. I know that I want to have an impact in this world. I know that I love giving a platform to women to share their stories and to have conversations. As I said, conversation is the catalyst for change. It's so important. And that's where we need to shift things, and we need to listen. Like I said, unless you can disagree, and that's okay. That's their lot in life, and this is my lot in life. I know where I'm going. I know what I want, and I know what I believe in. So that's okay. You can disagree with me. We are never, ever going to please everybody. You cannot. It's impossible. And this is part of the plight as a people pleaser, right? You want
Yeah.
to make everyone happy. You want to please everyone. You don't want to ruffle feathers. You don't want to do things that are going to upset people. But you also have to be true to you. Because again, you are the foundation for everything. That relationship that we have with ourselves is hands down the longest standing and most important relationship we will ever have in our lifetime. So you better be true to yourself first and get clear on what you want and who you are.
Yeah, and that's the piece that I think a lot of women are challenged by because we're typically in this web of connectivity with others, placed kind of in the middle as the mother or as the sister or the daughter or whatever.
Yeah.
It's like we're placed in this web, and part of that feels natural to me, but there is this way of needing to navigate it to know who you are in truth. And sometimes you've got to take actions to break certain unhealthy dynamics. And if you can't do it through conversation, then you just got to do it, and that's kind of what happened in my first marriage is wasn't able to do it through conversation after 20 years. So it was like, okay, well, that's the end of that story. That book is closing, new book is opening.
Yeah.
And I had to step out. And I had a lot of people really shocked that I would walk away from a good marriage, which it looked like a good marriage, but I wasn't able to I wasn't able to access myself. That's number one. Like I was losing myself in this context. I wasn't able to find my true self and really stand in it. And so a lot of negative behavior started happening because of that. And there can be like this really deep resentment when you people please a lot.
Yeah. Yeah.
And there can also be like a deep grief, like a loss of myself.
For sure.
That can happen too. And those things are non-negotiables.
I think that's a very, very common thing among women. I mean, I've seen it. I've been around women since I was a kid. I was raised by my mother and my grandmother, and my house is full of women. I'm the only man here. And so, and then of course the work I do. But that's what women typically do because of the conditioning is that they put everyone else ahead of themselves and put themselves on the back burner because they've been conditioned to believe that, no, as a woman, I have to do for everyone else first. If I do for myself, that's selfish, and all the things, all the bullshit narratives that go along with that. And it's completely false. But I think women are starting to wake up and realize, no, wait a minute. I'm putting me first. And that's even above your kids to a certain degree. You have to, because if you don't, you can't give to these people who you want to give of yourself to. You can't give to your kids. You can't give to your husband or your wife, your partner, whatever. You can't give to your friends. You can't give to your community if you've got nothing in the tank. That's impossible. You are putting yourself, your health, all of it at risk. Your mental health, your physical, all of it is at risk. And then who loses? You're the biggest loser of all with that, because your health suffers. Your mental health suffers, all of it.
Yeah. And I would like to just put out a little theory that's why so many women have these diagnoses like that require them to take medications. It's not because you need that. It's because you need boundaries. Like it's because you need to learn how to, this is what happened to me. I had to learn how to put boundaries in place and know this is my space. It's kind of like, this is my dance space. This is your dance space.
Yes.
And I have a voice and you have a voice. And, and especially when, let's say, and I think that people are exploring this now in the reverse as well. But like if the mom stays home, then now who's earning the money? Who has the life as an independent adult out there all day long? And then who's the one at home? Well, that's just as valid as a job,
Of course it is.
Being a mom is like a very big job. And I've seen it reverse too, where the dad stays at home and the mom's the one that goes out. It depends on who's, who's more suited, right, to that role. Because it takes a lot of patience to be one of the parents.
Being a parent is the toughest job in the world, I think. I would have to say. The kids don't come with instruction manuals. You got to learn on the fly. And yes, of course, we learn things from our parents and how things to do and things not to do through our experiences as kids growing up with our parents. And you talk to other people, and there's all sorts of information coming at you, but there's no instruction manuals. You're not sent home from the hospital. Here you go. Here's your manual on how to raise your kid. No, you got to figure it out you're thrown into the deep end. Figure it out. You're on your own. That's it.
And it's interesting because we're talking about all of this, which is like the web, right? Which is somebody's like, I remember Stephen Covey talked about years ago is the spheres of influence, right? And the first sphere is yourself. And then it's your immediate family or your partner. And then it's, friends and family and work environments, and then community, and then government and things like that. And so most people are kind of just still trying to work with this first circle, like, and this is why I think so many people surrender so much of their power when it comes to the larger institutions like government. It's like just surrendering your power and giving it to somebody else that you think is going to do what you thought, and then that didn't happen. And so what's the medicine? What is the medicine in the fact that isn't happening for us right now, Brad? Is it I mean, what do you think the medicine is? Is it because we've really got to step into our power now? It's like we've got to resolve all these codependencies and all these ways that we surrender our voice and our power, starting from that first circle to the family, to the community, to...
we have to go within. We have to. It starts there. That's the foundation. That's the building blocks. That's where you start. You have to go within and figure out where you fit in, what you want in this life. And then I think you build out and find your tribe, find your soul tribe, your soul family, whatever you want to call it. Surround yourself with those like-minded people. And I think that's how we're going to make change in this world, is starting here, doing the work within first, and then finding our people, finding our tribe, because our voices are so much louder united than it is solo. And again, I mean, I used to think, I'm one person. What can I do? I can't make any change. Well, yes, you can. You can start the wheel rolling. You can start the ball moving. And it picks up speed, and you bring more people in. I always say there's more than enough for everyone. Anyone's welcome on my bus. Get on. There's seats for everybody. Let's do this together, because we can't do it alone. It is absolutely impossible to do it alone. You can start, absolutely, because you have to start here, but you can't do it by yourself. It's impossible. That's
why we team up on these podcasts. I mean, for everybody out there. I mean, that's why Brad and I are doing a podcast swap. That's why I do that
Hmm.
with so many other people, and Brad
Yeah.
does that with so many other people,
Hmm.
because we create this larger community of
Hmm.
people that are leaders that are here
Yeah.
to guide the way to a new empowered way of being a human on this planet.
Hmm.
And like, yeah, it starts with yourself, right? So you've got to be able to maintain your own personal boundaries. You've got to know what you
Hmm.
want. And sometimes knowing what you want starts with what you don't want, right? Like, well, I
Yeah.
don't
Yeah.
want that. Okay, great.
Yeah.
You
Yes.
know what you don't
Absolutely.
want, you know?
That's a start.
But having a community and a mentor or guidance, talk about
Hmm.
how important that is, especially if somebody's like really struggling with owning their voice or even knowing what they want.
Oh,
It's so
yeah.
helpful to have community, right? And to have a mentor.
Community is everything. Community, in my opinion, is absolutely everything. We need each other. I think we've lost that sense of community. I mean, I grew up as a kid in the 70s and 80s, and I can remember my mom babysitting kids in the neighborhood. Like parents would drop their kids off. Here you go, Brenda. Can you watch so and so while I go do this, or I got to go to work, or whatever it is. Now people don't even know who the fuck their neighbors are, which I think is horrible. Like they don't even talk. It's head down and don't even pay attention to anything around them. We've lost that sense of community. And I think we need to get back to it because it is the fabric of society. We need it. You can't do anything in this life alone. It's impossible. And having a mentor, a guide, a community to lean on, you need it. I mean, I can remember when I first made the jump into entrepreneurship and I was trying to do it by myself, my photography business, and, you know, seeing what other people were doing. And then the whole comparisonitis thing slipped in and competition mindset and all of those things. And it took me probably about almost the first 2 years to get out of that mindset. And then I got a mentor, and that changed everything because I was going about things wrong. I didn't have an outside perspective saying, "Hey, Brad, why don't you look at doing this or look at doing that? Do things this way." Because I was going into businesses to potentially collaborate with. Um, well, what can I get out of this? What's in this for me? And that first mentor I got when I first started working with him, he said, "You can't. You're going about it the complete wrong way. You have to flip the script and go into these companies that you want to collaborate with. Say, how can I be of service to you? What value can I bring to your company? Then it will come back to you." And last year, I think it was, now this was when I first started my journey. So I started my photography journey in when did I leave? 2017? 2017, I think it was. Yeah, 2017, because it's 8 years this year. So I was 2 years in. I'd say about the 3 year mark, I got a mentor. And so last year, I went back to him. I hadn't talked to him in quite a while. And I just reached out and I said, you know what? I just want to say thank you for your guidance and your lessons because it has served me so much in my life, in my business. Like it changed my whole perspective on life, even. It's not even entrepreneurship, but life. It's like, this is part of why we're here. Let's support each other. What can I do for you? How can I help you? You need help? What can I do? What do I have? What skill sets do I have? Or what expertise that I can share with you that can benefit you? And vice versa. But first and foremost is how can I help you? It completely, and I said, I would just want to say thank you for your guidance. And this was like, we probably hadn't spoken in about 3 years. And so doing that and him coming, he said, thank you for letting me know that means a lot. So it's using your voice. Again, that was using my voice to share with him. He didn't know. He had no idea how much he helped me. So why wouldn't I tell him how much he helped me, how much he changed my life? We worked together for 3 or 4 months and we stayed in contact after that. But I think it's important to use your voice there's so many different narratives you can use your voice in. And I think letting someone know how much they impacted your life is a big part of that. And so I just want to stress that you have a voice, use it. It is needed in the world, whether it's to tell someone how much you appreciate them. I mean, I run a 30-day voice note challenge every year. And it's just Send one person a day for the month of December. Send one person a day a voice note, not a text message, but a voice note, so they can hear the inflection in your voice,
Yeah, there's a
and let
lot to
them
that.
know how much you appreciate them. Or just say, hey, I was thinking about you. I wanted to say hi today. One person, a different person every day for the month of December.
Yeah, that's
How?
like that helps us shift out of the Western paradigm of transactional
Yes.
relationships into relational relationships.
Yes.
Because when we used to live in communities, we always would have relational relationships.
Yes.
You know, we knew each other in all of our bad moments and all of our good moments and all of our
Yep.
fights and all, and then we'd make up again because we're part of a small village. And
hmm
now that it's gotten so big, and like you said, people like in my neighborhood, nobody ever comes outside.
Yeah.
They have yard people come to the yard. You never see them outside.
hmm
I hang out on my front lawn. That's how I know. Like they think I'm so weird because I meditate out there, but I was like, "Oh, I don't care. That's fine. I'll with my rattle shaking off my energy field and stuff. And then text them.
People need help. People just want to be heard. People want to be seen. And,
Yeah.
you know, uh, in the winter, I shovel, so my mom doesn't live too far from me. I'll go over, I'll shovel our driveway in the winter. I'll shovel hers. I'll shovel her neighbors. Like, just help out. It doesn't take much. It doesn't cost. Kindness is what we're missing in this world, is really what it comes
Contribution.
down to. Yes, kindness and contribution. Be kind. It doesn't cost you anything to be kind to someone. It doesn't take much.
And you can tell who kind people are because you watch the way that kind people use their language.
hmm
You watch the way, and this is discernment, right? You were talking
hmm
earlier about discernment.
hmm
It's important to discern. Brene Brown says, you get to choose who you're vulnerable with, right?
Yep.
And so choose somebody who's kind, choose somebody who listens, choose
hmm
somebody who doesn't have an instant like offering you or has an agenda, choose somebody who is like not trying to steer you in a certain way, like
hmm
show you how much you need their offering or whatever.
hmm
Choose somebody who's just like, hi, how are you doing? And builds a relationship. And I feel like there's also this piece where we gotta we gotta learn how to make it safe for people to share.
Oh, for sure. Absolutely. We have to create safe spaces for sure for people to feel comfortable enough to share. It's important.
Because there's a lot of
Absolutely.
things, right, especially for women.
hmm
I'm sure you're aware, but there's like a lot of things, dynamics that can happen between women where like you start to share something and then you
hmm
immediately get told the 500 ways you could have done that differently, especially as a mother. And that's really the
Yeah.
last thing the person needs. Like they really don't
hmm
need a solution or they don't need to be told how they screwed it up 500 ways.
No.
They just need to be heard. And
Yep.
and then gently, if they're open, that's
hmm
like I love my mentors taught me about is the invitation. Are you open
Yeah.
for a reflection?
Yes.
Are
hmm
you open for reflection? And if they say yes, then I can share a story,
Yeah.
of my
hmm
own, like from the I place. And I
hmm
feel like I'm touching on little points of like conscious relating, right? But
hmm
and anybody, you guys can go look up conscious relating. I'm sure you can find a zillion conversations about it. And obviously, Brad does conscious relating, so you can learn it from Brad. You can learn it in our community. There's lots of places to learn it, but it's important because that creates safety to share. When you
hmm
when you know you're not going to be judged or
hmm
funneled some way or be given solutions you didn't ask for, all these
Yeah.
ways that trust gets violated
hmm
when you know that you can be held and you can share, that
Yeah.
actually helps you to be in community. Because a lot of people shy away from community because they've had
Yes.
communities where they were judged, right? Like church environments or
Absolutely.
things like that.
Absolutely. We just finished up our online women's conference for International Women's Day a couple weeks ago. On the Friday and the Saturday, we did a 2-day event. And Kerri, honestly, I mean, I had members that spoke at the conference. I had attendees reaching out saying, this conference changed my life. I have speakers reaching out saying, I have finally found my soul tribe, my soul family, because I had been in exactly what you're saying. I had been in communities before where I felt shame for sharing. And that's not, no, you can share, be who you authentically are. That's what, why should you have to dumb things down or quiet things down? Be who you are here to be. There is no judgment, there's no shame around it. Be who you're here to be. If you speak loudly, if you swear like a truck, I don't care. That's who you are. I don't give a shit. I'm not going to judge you. If you got pink, purple, blue, yellow hair, I don't care. It doesn't change who you are as a human being. I see you for the human you are, for the soul that you are, not for the exterior appearances or how you speak, or it's about who you are as a person and being able to feel comfortable enough to share your authenticity.
Mm, sharing yourself. So important. That's the first step to healing. It
Hmm.
truly is. And as we heal that inner circle, we start to heal and create more healed patterns in our next inner circle with our
Hmm.
family, and then that
Hmm.
creates more inner healing
Yeah.
in our communities. And sometimes we go to the community first because the family system's a little
Yes.
harder. So we go
Yes.
out to the community, we get lots of support, and then we come in and we infuse
There
our
you
family
go.
system with that. So we can kind of back and forth like that, and
Hmm.
then it can go into our nation, and
Yep.
where your voice is expressed and in a way that can be heard, right? Because people
Yep.
are using these things called ears.
Absolutely. I mean, getting those messages was, I sat and reflected probably about a week later. It's like, wow, we did this. Like, we did this together. We created this space where people felt comfortable. People felt that's what you strive for. At least for me,
As a
anyways. With my
facilitator, yeah.
Yeah, with my community, with my podcast, with my conference that we put on, that's all I want is to hear that, you know, I changed someone's life. Like how to me sometimes like it blows my mind. It's unfathomable sometimes, but it's like that's it. This is what it's about is giving back to people. Change having that kind of an impact on a person's life, on another human being's life. There's nothing better than that. Really. No money can equate to know that someone feels that their life has changed and that they feel comfortable enough to be who they truly are. Fuck, that's there aren't enough words to express the gratitude for that. That is what it's about. That is the embodiment of what we are here for, in my opinion.
Yeah, that's what
That's
we're doing.
incredible.
You take that with you as a soul. You can't
Hmm.
take the money with you, because you can take all the blessings that you bestowed
Hmm.
and that were bestowed upon you. You can take all that with you. It's integrated in your soul.
Hmm.
The money stuff stays because this is material. It's a
Well, have you
material
ever
world.
seen a U-Haul being pulled behind a hearse?
No,
You can't take that shit with you.
that stuff's
It's
gone.
nothing. It's inconsequential. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, the only thing that matters is really like how we treat ourselves and how we treat each other and the planet. It's
And I
that.
love the way you said that. It's how we treat ourselves. It starts there again.
Mhm.
It does. And then how we treat others in the world. And being kind does not cost you a single penny. It doesn't cost you a cent to be kind to someone. So just do it. Why wouldn't you? It's our human nature. We need more of that. We need more love in the world. We need more kindness. That's what we need in this world. And when we do that in our communities, in our individual communities, when we do it with ourselves first and then in our communities, it just continues to ripple out because those people who are affected in our community will share that with their communities and it just continues to go and go and go. And that's what I believe. I like to believe that that's what it is. And I mean, having that confirmation, that affirmation that that was achieved through a 2-day event that I co-facilitated. I mean, there's nothing better than
It's
that.
pretty
Honestly,
awesome.
my heart is full, like overflowing.
It's beautiful.
I'm still on cloud 12
Yeah,
from my
no
conference.
doubt. What a beautiful experience. Yeah. So, well, people need to reach out to you to get in line for the next one and
Yeah,
whatever other
absolutely.
events you have coming up. So,
Hmm.
um, yeah, so we have a list of where to go to get that from your Empowerography podcast. I'm looking at my
Hmm.
notes, and I'll
Yeah.
put that in the show notes below.
Yeah.
But you'll be able to go there, get your the free offer, and you'll get on the list, and then you'll be notified of the next events. And
Hmm.
that's super exciting. I'm so glad that you're doing this work. Your energy is very reassuring, and I feel like when we have a conscious masculine in the space, women can really relax much more,
Hmm.
and so all the men listening, so like just notice kind of some of the things that Brad was saying and how you're holding yourself, like that's very conducive for a woman to open up when we have
Hmm.
that kind of conscious masculine present. It really helps us, and it helps us to trust and share in a way that can be received. And Yeah.
Yeah. This year, if I can just say real quick, we had a men's panel for the first time. This was our fifth year doing the conference. And this year we decided for the fifth year anniversary, it's time to bring men into the conversation. Men need to step up. And so we had a men's panel, and the feedback, Kerri, was unbelievable about the men's panel. There were women saying, you changed the complete energy of the conference. Like with when you guys were speaking, because I was part of that panel, I took off my co-host hat and put on my panelist hat. Um, it just changed the dynamic. It just brought such a beautiful energy to the space. And, my co-host is like, I don't even know why we bother creating these questions, because you guys, these questions don't really apply to you guys. You guys are embodying the compassionate masculine. So let's just have a conversation. And the women absolutely loved listening to us speak, because this is a different perspective. And so many women said they learned so much from men because we gave the perspective of how we see things in relation with women and what we have to deal with as men in those relationships. And so it was a beautiful synergy. Honestly, it was amazing. It was truly incredible and needed. And so going forward now, every year we will have a men's panel involved, because it's needed. More men need to start stepping up and getting involved in the conversation, because in my opinion, nothing's going to change as well. This is another piece conversation, but also having men involved. I think we need to cast aside this masculine versus feminine bullshit war that's been going on for so long, and realize that, you know what, we have to do it in unity. Men cannot do it alone. It's impossible. All the men in the world can't accomplish what needs to be accomplished, and neither can all the women together. We have to come together as human beings. Let's cast aside the labels. Let's just come together as human beings and work together in unity. That is the only way, the absolute only way, in my opinion, that anything in this world is going to get done or get changed, is if we work together with women and women work with men. That's
Yeah,
it.
I totally agree. I actually, in the gene keys, I have the 6 in my pearl
Hmm.
in my long-term goal for my lifetime, and it's conflict. And the first conflict is separation between the sexes.
Mm.
And then all these other divisions happen on top of that, right? Like
Hmm.
your color of your skin or your ethnicity or where you live, and
Yeah.
all these divisions. And so the medicine is diplomacy to
There you
get to
go.
peace. If you
Hmm.
want peace, you have to go through diplomacy. And diplomacy
Hmm.
means hearing all sides,
Yes,
hearing all
absolutely.
perspectives and having them
Hmm.
equally heard.
Yeah,
Not one more than another, but just listening to all of the perspectives.
100%.
Yeah,
That's the only
so
way.
important. That's what we're doing here. That's the big
Yeah.
picture. And in the details, it's really messy and
Yeah,
it's
of
painful and
course.
it hurts, and yeah, and there's a
Hmm.
lot going on, but that's the conversation. Like remembering that that's the overall conversation, I think will help us to have our little conversations, our in the weeds
Yes. Yeah,
conversations.
yes, absolutely. That's where it starts for sure.
Beautiful. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show and bringing all this beautiful wisdom with you. And I'm so glad that we had a little bit of chaos getting this started today. So it was like, is this going to happen or not? But I'm so glad it did, because what a beautiful conversation. Thank you so much for being on the show. Is there anything you want to leave everybody with on our way out?
Whatever's meant for you will never go by you. Believe in that and trust in that. And if it's not meant for you, it's okay. Take the lesson out of it. As much as you may have wanted it to happen, it wasn't meant to happen. If it didn't happen, take the lesson out of it and move forward and do better. That's it. And just be kind to one another. That's it. That's
Be
all I got.
kind. Take the lessons.
Yep.
Let go of attachments. Awesome.
Yeah. Thank Kerri. This has
Oh,
been
thank
such a powerful
you.
and beautiful conversation. I am absolutely honored to have had the opportunity to sit down and share with you, to share with your audience, and to be part of your platform. Thank you so much.
And thank you so much for being here. And we're going to give kisses. We always end the show with kisses. But before
Okay.
we do, everybody, be sure to like, subscribe, and share this out with anybody that you think could benefit from this conversation that we had today, and with the goal of creating more peace. And so here comes our kisses. I just give little Reiki kisses. You want to join me? Here they
Okay.
come, everybody. We
Yeah,
love you. Thanks for staying
absolutely.
tuned.
Mm,
Love you. And we'll
love
see you
you.
next time on Soul Nectar Show. Bye for now,
Thank
everyone.
you, Kerri.
Thank you.
If you found even one gold nugget in this episode of Soul Nectar Show, will you do us a favor? Will you subscribe, like, and share this episode? Maybe even write a comment and let us know what you thought about it. We really, really want to engage with you at a much deeper level. Let's be part of community together. Have a great week, everyone. Bye for now. To dive in deeper to nourishing conversation, visit soulnectar.show.
Soul Nectar Show. Awaken, awake, Nectar Show. Take a sip from the drip of nectar, from the source of who you are.